You know, it's been a rough few weeks for new beauty launches. I just have not really liked a lot that I've tried, and so this video is gonna be mainly full of disappointing products, which may be great for you if you're on a budget. Let me do a little bit of de-influencing here. But the products I loved in this video, I loved. And so let's kick it off on a positive note. My longtime partner John and I were in LA recently, and we did some shopping at the Grove, and I saw that there was a Charlotte Tilbury store. So you know I had to pop in, and I immediately saw the new Pillow Talk Fair collection and fell in love with the lip cheat shade. It's exactly what I've wanted the entire Pillow Talk line to be, and it's really similar to NYX Mauve, which is one of my all-time favorite lip pencils. If you haven't tried the lip cheat formula, it goes on super creamy at first, but after about 10 seconds, it starts setting down and you lose that blendability, and then it just sets on your lips and it does not budge. So it's the kind that can get a little gummy, it's very, very opaque, and it's incredibly long-lasting. Like, this does not come off until you want it to. But I know you're most excited to hear about the color. It is a gorgeous, cool toned mauve with a little bit of pink. The whole Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk line is bizarre to me because every Pillow Talk color is different. It's just so strange to me that their best-selling collection has zero consistency. But I love the Pillow Talk shade of the lip cheat formula. It's great if you have light skin or cool undertones. If you're like me and every lip pencil pulls warm, this is a fantastic addition to your collection. This is $25. You can get it on the Charlotte Tilbury website, and it's also available at Sephora now. Let's talk about these Huda Beauty Faux Filter lip glosses. Now, this was really intriguing to me at first because it's called Faux Filter, so I'm expecting that high shine finish, you know, that glass-like shine that smooths over the lips, like my Amicule lip oil or the Naturium Phyto Glow lip balms. And before I got this PR package, I saw my friends review the glosses and they said it was like a really thick, cushiony formula, so I had high expectations. And unfortunately, these just missed the mark for me. I do love that they have a thicker, kind of more cushiony formula, but I find that it only has that texture in the clear shade, which is glassy. Nobody else has mentioned this, I don't think, but I noticed that all the glosses that have pigment are kind of like thinner and more oily, and the pigment just sits on top of the lips. It shows like every crease of your lips. They just look really makeup-y, especially the lightest and the darkest shades. So I grouped the glosses into 4 different categories because I have 4 different experiences with them. The shade Glassy is gorgeous, and I'm keeping this in my collection because it's thicker, it's cushiony, it has a very high shine finish, and it does look like it smooths the lip lines a little bit. It actually reminds me of my favorite clear lip gloss, which is the AF94 gloss in Do You See It? That one's unscented, and these have a very strong coconut scent, so not my favorite smell, but the clear one's really pretty and I like the thickness of it. Then you have the 2 lighter shades, Sugar Baby and Honey, and the pigment of these is probably the most unflattering out of the bunch. They just look really milky. I just can't imagine them looking super flattering on anyone. Definitely the kind of glosses you want to wear a lip liner with, but I've seen so many people review these on Instagram, and I don't think that these 2 shades look good on anyone. Like, it just looks very milky, very makeup-y. Then the 3 shades I thought looked pretty okay were Posh, Bombshell, and Foxy, because these have more of like a medium color. They're not too light, but they're not too dark, and I find that the pigment is just generally a little bit more even. Then we have Cocoa, which is the deepest shade, and I just thought it looked a bit patchy on me, but of course if you have deeper skin, then this probably would blend into your skin really well. So it does depend on what your unique skin tone is, but on me, Cocoa did look a little bit patchy. And the name is Faux Filter, so you want a little bit of that smoothing quality that really just softens the appearance of lip lines and gives you that glass-like shine. And while these are really shiny, I really don't think that they give me any kind of smoothing appearance, any kind of faux filter appearance on the lips. Maybe a little bit in the shade Glassy. Again, that one is totally different from the rest. In the PR package with the Huda Beauty Faux Filter glosses, I also got their lip contours. And unfortunately, these were also a pass for me. They're just way too pigmented. Like, they're very creamy and then they set almost immediately. So it is the kind of pencil that can get gummy. And I just find that because they're so pigmented and they're so creamy, it's really difficult for me to get a natural look with these, which is what I prefer for my lip liner. I also didn't think any of the shades were particularly flattering on my skin tone. I think they're just too bright or too dark or too pigmented for me. Just a product that's not really for me. Let's talk about 3 sunscreens. So Prequel sent me their Sun Barrier Mineral Sunscreen Broad Spectrum SPF 50 PA++++. It has 18% zinc oxide, bioactive antioxidant compounds, and bisabolol. This is $22. It's safe for eczema-prone skin. It's allergy tested, and it has a pH of 7.5. It's fragrance and essential oil free, and it has a very, very thin, milky, lightweight texture, which is really impressive considering it has 18% zinc. I was surprised that this actually isn't too dewy throughout the day. Normally mineral sunscreens just look so greasy on me, and I have acne-prone combination skin, so I prefer sunscreens that either have a soft matte finish or just don't look wet. So I like that though this was dewy at first, it does set down to a natural finish. Unfortunately, it's one of those sunscreens that I find just kind of gets a little dry and flakes off by the end of the day. That can happen to me with a lot of mineral sunscreens. It also does leave a slight white cast, like it's barely noticeable on my my skin, but I can just tell because I've tried so many sunscreens. And ultimately, I really only wear tinted sunscreens throughout the day because that addition of iron oxides is what really helps protect from sun damage. And I found that the year I switched from a non-tinted sunscreen to a tinted sunscreen, my sun damage got so much better. So it's just not really the product for me, but what is for me is this new Innbeauty sunscreen, and it's their Mineral Sun Glow Broad Spectrum SPF 43 PA+++, UVA, UVB, blue light, and antioxidant protection. And they sent me both shades, Fair Medium and Medium Deep. This has 14.28% zinc oxide. This is $35 and you can get it on Innbeauty's website or at Sephora. It's fragrance free and it's slightly tinted with like a pinky rosy hue. It perfectly blends into my skin tone and I am just blown away by the texture of this. It's so thin and creamy and lightweight, and it just feels like you're wearing a moisturizer. And normally I would prefer sunscreens that have more of a soft matte finish. I was a little bit nervous about the name Sun Glow when I heard them talk about it, but it's not overly glowy. I saw someone say today that it kind of reminded them of the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless filter, but not as glowy. And that's definitely what it is. It's glowy, not in a way that's like super shiny or wet. It just has a little bit of that soft focus filter effect. So it feels like a creamy, lightweight lotion with a natural finish, but then you have a little bit of that like Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless filter vibe. And I know some of you are gonna ask, the Paula's Choice Super Light Daily Wrinkle Defense SPF 30 is still my go-to sunscreen under makeup because when I'm wearing makeup, I need a matte finish. Otherwise, my skin looks like it's covered in grease. This is now my #1 favorite sunscreen for when I'm not wearing makeup because it's so comfortable, but it is the most soothing mineral sunscreen I've ever tried. Previously, I gave that category to Live Tinted's Hue Guard, but I find Innbeauty Sun Glow to actually be even more soothing than that. And my longtime partner, John, loves it so much that we've both been using it every day. And so I'm almost out and it just launched. So may have to get a couple backups during the Sephora sale. This next one is a doozy. It's the Live Tinted Hue Guard Tint Skin Tint SPF 50. This is $42. It comes in 10 shades and the website says it's a weightless, light medium buildable coverage skin tint with no white cast. Mineral SPF 50 that protects skin with all day hydration and a radiant finish. Powered by skincare actives to hydrate, protect, and smooth skin in just one step. You guys, I was fighting for my life on this one. This is the wettest product I have ever tried in my entire life. It's very, very thin and it is quite pigmented for a skin tint. Like it definitely has coverage. The thing is they say that it's your SPF protection and your skin tint in one easy step. So I'm gonna show you the application clip where I apply it as such, where you are supposed to apply a 1/4 teaspoon for your face and a 1/4 teaspoon for your neck. I probably under applied in this clip, but you'll see it is just, it's too much. It does not work as your main source of sunscreen. And I honestly can't believe that they're marketing it as such because you'd have to use so much in order to get that SPF 50 protection. As you can see, the shade 10 is not a great match for me. It's super, super yellow. It's also pretty dark. And so it's just not great if you have fair skin, which is something I'm a little disappointed by because the marketing campaign said a shade for everyone. And since shade 10 is the lightest shade and it's pretty dark and pretty warm, there definitely won't be a shade for everyone. It's not a big deal, obviously, but I did just want to mention that if you have skin that's lighter than mine, this definitely will not work for you unless you're using like a teeny tiny amount. This just felt so greasy on the skin. I remember I took a phone call and like when I took my phone away from my face, my entire phone was just covered in this layer of film and it was from this skin tint. It truly never sets down. So I'll show you a little clip of me wearing it on Instagram stories. The Live Tinted Hue Guard tint also clinged to every texture on my face, whether it be like dry patches or acne or whatever. It just emphasized texture. It looked horrible in every way. If I had to say one positive thing about it, I guess I would say when I used it as a skin tint on top of the Live Tinted Hue Guard sunscreen, it looked a lot better. I mean, it still was a little bit too warm for me and it was way too wet looking, but it wasn't emphasizing texture as much. It wasn't quite as greasy. So I just think it's crazy that they're marketing this as your one-stop shop for your SPF and your makeup-based needs. It really misses the mark in that way, and I'm pretty shocked given how like truly wet this is. But let's continue the Prequel train. So there are now 3 products in the Skin Utility range. I'll drop in a clip of the Skin Utility Ointment, which is a product I've been loving and using for a while now. It's the thickest of the bunch. It's very similar to the CeraVe Healing Ointment, but the CeraVe Healing Ointment has always really irritated my skin for some reason, but the Prequel Ointment does not. And I like to use that product as the slugging method. It's a little bit less greasy than like CeraVe, Aquaphor, or Vaseline. And now they have the Skin Utility Gel and the Skin Utility Utility Balm. I am absolutely hooked on the Skin Utility Gel. It's like one of the best skincare products I've ever tried. It has a kind of runny gel balm texture, which is really nice. It's great on my acne prone skin. It's basically what I've always wanted the CeraVe Healing Ointment to be because it's thinner in texture while still remaining kind of like a balm. It really does have this unique gel balm consistency. It's not too heavy on my acne prone skin. I can even wear it under makeup because it is so lightweight, but somehow so occlusive. I also can use this at the end of the night in place of the slugging method, and it works great at locking everything in. This one is also really, really soothing. It has 20% glycerin, which is amazing. My skin loves glycerin, 5% vitamin B complex, and a bioactive soothing complex. And they say that this is supposed to alleviate discomfort, irritation, and dryness to reestablish a healthy skin barrier, and it absolutely does that. And for $18, I think this is just a fantastic product. Unfortunately, the Skin Utility Balm just was not a hit for me. This is $20, and they say that this one's also multi-purpose, and it's supposed to relieve dehydrated, sensitized, and compromised skin. This one has dimethicone, shea butter, cica, and their lipid complex. They describe it as a rich balm, and like all Prequel products, it's totally fragrance and essential oil free. Now, this one's interesting because it doesn't feel like a balm to me. This one feels more like a really, really rich moisturizer, but it sets down to a matte finish. And I actually found my skin didn't like this. I don't know what's up with my skin. Some estheticians have said that my skin's dry. Others have said that it's dehydrated, so I'm confused. Either way, this felt a little bit drying on my skin. Like it felt a little too matte for me. It could also be the climate I'm in. I live in Ojai now, which is pretty dry, but my friend Dev reviewed this one and she absolutely loved it. In the complexion category, ILIA sent me their Skin Rewind Blurring Foundation and Concealer Complexion Stick in the shade 5C Pine. This is actually a really good shade match for me, which was exciting because that rarely happens. It's $48, which is pretty expensive for a foundation stick, but I was very impressed that it had 42 seemingly very well balanced shades. I know a couple years ago, ILIA was really lacking in their shade range department, so I'm stoked to see them make huge improvements like this. I was so excited to try this because they said that it had a soft matte finish and medium coverage. It's also fragrance free, it has skincare ingredients, and they say that it blurs instantly and visibly firms and smooths the skin over time. So I was like, blurring? Hell yeah, I need blurring. I got acne all over my face every goddamn day of the week. Unfortunately, that does not happen, and it's not bad. Like, this is neither bad nor great. It's very difficult to blend. It's quite sticky on the skin because it does have more of a soft matte finish, but not a matte finish like one that's very silicone-y and slippery. It's just a little bit thick on the skin. So it's not my favorite to blend because it does take that extra time sitting there and blending it out. But also, even though this does set to a soft matte finish at first, after about 10 minutes, my face gets pretty noticeably oily with this. There are a ton of reviews on Sephora that also say the same thing. This one person said, I found this to be a little disappointing for all the hype it's getting, specifically all of the melts into your skin type reviews. I find that this really sits on my skin, and if I touch my face like at all, it wipes right off and leaves a very distinct line. And the header says, sits heavily on face, feels oily. That's exactly the experience I had with this. It's kind of thicker, stiffer, heavy. It just feels very makeup-y. And even though it's supposed to have a natural or like a soft matte finish, it gets oily. Saie Beauty sent me their Slip Tint Radiant All Over Concealer with niacinamide, and the best shade match for me is shade 5, which is light with peach undertones. So just heads up on the shade range, this is very, very, very yellow. I went and I swatched a bunch of them at Sephora. Unfortunately, there's no match for me. So if you have light, cool tone skin, keep that in mind. This is $28 and comes in 25 shades. That's definitely a step up for Saie in terms of their shade range. I think their last concealer only had 10. And they describe this as a lightweight, non-comedogenic concealer with natural, radiant, medium coverage, clinically proven to wear 12 hours, smooth, and hydrate skin. It has niacinamide, hyaluronic acid, and glycerin. This has a very, very thin cream consistency. It's super lightweight, very spreadable. So I see what they mean by all over concealer. It's so spreadable that you totally could just dot it on your skin and use it in place of foundation. Now, this is just a personal preference, but I'm a full coverage girly because I like to use just like a little bit of concealer under my eyes to get the coverage that I need versus a medium coverage concealer and having to really build it and I put a lot of product on my skin. So I'm not a fan of medium coverage in general. I did feel like this needed a little bit more coverage throughout the day, and it was so slippery that the coverage just kind of kept sliding off. But interestingly, I dislike this more when I first apply it. It does kind of melt into the skin over time. At first it applies really yellow, but it does kind of settle into my skin. And I did feel like this emphasized lines under my eyes a little bit. Not terribly, but it was noticeable. And I was just getting really annoyed by how much the coverage was slipping away because it's so blendable that I had to powder it. And then once I powdered it, I feel like I liked it a little bit bit more. But I just find that nothing beats my Fit Glow concealer. I love that thicker texture that it has. I find that really thin, runny concealers are always the ones that emphasize lines under my eyes. Because if you think about it, it's similar to a lip oil, and the way that like lip oil can really settle into lines on the lips because it's so thin. Same thing with these really thin, runny concealer formulas. I feel like they kind of just settle into lines. So this really just isn't my favorite concealer formula. But I did want to point out, I thought the wear test was pretty good. Like once I set it with powder, I kind of stopped losing coverage. It did look a little bit dry under my eyes, but really not as bad as something like the Tower 28 concealer or a bunch of others I've tried recently. And it does have solid medium coverage. So I would say if you're like me and you have the same preferences as I do as concealer, skip it. But if you like a medium coverage concealer that's really thin and really lightweight, then this might totally be your jam. Let's talk drugstore. So Milani sent me their Cheek Kiss bronzer and blushes. And the best shade for me is the lightest one, 110 Hey Honey. This is $12.99 on Ulta. It comes in 4 shades, and Hey Honey is described as being for fair to light skin. Unfortunately, this is a little bit too warm on me, but if you have light skin with neutral or warm undertones, I think this will work great on you. And the formula of this is fantastic. The Garso twins recently talked about it in their like 5 weekly favorites video, and they thought that it was the best cream bronzer that they had ever tried because it's not like thick and kind of more stiff to blend, like, you know, the Saie Sunmelt cream bronzer, the NARS cream bronzer. It's not stiff like that, but it's also not super, super emollient. It doesn't feel like a sticky balm. Like it doesn't feel like the Tower 28 blushes. I hate those. This does feel like a soft cream, and it's really, really nice. I just feel like I was looking back at footage and noticing that the color looked really yellow on me, but as I'm looking at it in the pan here, it looks like it would be really good. So I'm gonna keep testing this out because the formula is beautiful, and there's almost a little bit of a blurring quality to it. It really does seem like it could be a high-end formula. It's gorgeous. They also sent me a bunch of their Cheek Kiss cream blushes, and I'm going to talk about the shade 130 Blushing Berry. These are $10.99 on Ulta, and they come in 4 shades. I love this red color. It's gorgeous, but the formula is a bit different from the bronzer, which I find disappointing. The cream blush is much more of a balm, whereas the bronzer feels like more of a cream. There was a softness to the bronzer that I really liked, whereas this is one of those like very hard poured balms that's then really kind of wet and dewy when you rub your fingers together. Unfortunately, I just really don't like balm formulas like the Tower 28 blushes. They're very similar to those, although these are much stiffer, much more like hard poured. I just find that my hair can kind of stick to my face. This fades literally within 5 minutes. It's a little too dewy for me, just not my personal jam, but I freaking love this color, and I wish I could get this color in a different formula. Milani sent me all of their Color Fetish hydrating lip stains, but I passed them off to a subscriber because I actually ended up purchasing Mauve Mentality before they sent me the PR package, and I ended up not liking it. Now let me be clear, the formula is bomb. It's just the fragrance that bothers me. These are $13.99 at Ulta, and they really do have a beautiful hydrating formula. They feel very comfortable on the lips. I found that the stain was pretty even, and I thought the shade selection was really nice. These do have a lovely vanilla smell, but on the lips, it's like this floral perfume that I cannot get past. The taste of the perfume is so incredibly strong. If you've ever had that issue with the Rhode peptide lip tints, you'll know what I'm talking about. Some of their flavors like caramel and whatever had the kind of perfume that tastes like vanilla orchid. That's what these taste like, and I absolutely hate it. It's just like perfume in my mouth. There was no way to avoid it. It was really frustrating. But for those of you who are not sensitive to scents and smells like I am, you will probably really love this product. It is a really good stain, good price point, love the colors. So a solid launch from Milani is just not for me. Oof, you guys, I tried really hard to make these work. Like I tried all freaking day yesterday to make these work. These are the Rare Beauty Soft Pinch Luminous Powder Blushes. They sent me all of the shades and some liquid blushes, which I'm excited to try out. The Luminous blushes are $26. The website says these are an easy to use hybrid of 2 award-winning bestsellers, Soft Pinch Liquid Blush and Positive Light Silky Touch Highlighter. Unexpectedly smooth and incredibly weightless, this airy blush goes on seamlessly for a pinch-perfect flush that seems radiant from within. Highly pigmented base is packed with brilliant pearls for natural looking dimension. No flaking, caking, or fallout. Easy to blend, build color, or diffuse for a soft effect without ever looking chalky or ashy. Transfer proof, smudge proof, water resistant formula keeps you blushing all day. These made me feel very ugly. These were so texturizing on my cheeks, I wanted to cry because I have acne. I swear to God, this made acne on my skin, where in areas where I didn't even know I had texture. The reality is that these are just far too metallic to be a blush, but too pigmented to be a multi-use highlighter. So because they are so tinted, you really could only use them on your cheeks. Like you wouldn't want to use them on your collarbones or your nose or your brow bone or whatever. But as a blush, they are so intensely shimmery. So when I first tried the shade Hope, I didn't know what to expect. So I hadn't really figured out how to do an application method, and I was quite shocked to see just how shimmery and metallic it was on the cheeks. Very pretty color though. As you can see, I'm freaking out realizing how these are gonna look on camera. So I really tried blending it to see if I could kind of fix my mistake, and I just feel like it kind of stuck in one place. I tried cleaning off the brush and blending, and as you can see up close, it is just an absolute disaster. And oh my God, this really kills your confidence, man. It is not fun. It is not for people with acne prone skin, I tell you that much. Then I tried the shade Cheer, which was the most sheer out of the bunch, and this is the one I feel like you could use as a highlighter or like a blush topper, because as you can see, it is more of just a highlighter effect with a tiny, tiny little hint of pink. Happy is a more pigmented, cool toned pink. It's a little bit brighter and it's very, very metallic, as you can see on the skin. Still dealing with the same texture issues. Then I applied the shade Joy, and I was trying to be very careful, not applying too much, tapping off the excess, really kind of blending it on my skin. But when you sweep it on your skin, it just sticks there and it really doesn't blend. I know that they say it has like this seamless blendability, but it really doesn't. So then I wanted to add more just to like show you what the color looked like, because it was a little bit sheer at first. This one has more of like a gold reflect, where the others were a little bit more silvery. This one probably looks the most skin-like, I guess. The next shade is Truth, which is definitely better for deeper skin. As you can see, these do not blend. Like, I do not know what was going on. I had powdered my face to make sure that there was a canvas that they could blend on, and it just stuck right down. So I think this would obviously be much better suited for deeper skin tones. It would look a lot more seamless on your skin, but it just goes to show these just really don't work that well as a blush. Now the shade Love, I tried to be so careful. Barely touched the pan, you know, wiped it off, and you could see it just like sticks down on my face, and I couldn't figure out why they weren't blending. And it's just, I swear I tried so hard. Like, I'm not trying to do the influencer shock face, like, oh, look how bad this product is. That's not me. I really want to make things work. I value my good relationships with brands and my trust with my followers. I tried really hard and I just could not get these to work. They are not for my skin. They are not for me. I'm moving away from luminous blushes. I'm going much more into matte blushes these days. So, you know, if you have baby smooth skin, you might like them. I know my friend Sierra Taylor, she did an Instagram review of them and they looked really good on her, and I've seen her in person, she has like clear as day skin. So you might like these if you have really smooth skin and you love that kind of intense metallic highlighter look. Additionally, they did send me their liquid blushes, so I tried it as a blush topper because they do say on the website that you could use it as a blush topper as well, and I wanted to see if I could get it to work. This is the liquid blush in Hope, so keep in mind, this is at the end of the day when I'm looking already rough. But I just slapped on the blush really quickly so I could apply the shade Cheer on top, which is the sheerest shade out of all of the 6, and it looks so much better as a blush topper. It's not as metallic, it doesn't emphasize texture as much, but it is still quite intense. You do have to like a metallic glow if you want to try this as a blush topper. But it was easier to blend. I thought it looked nicer on the skin, but I just don't see the value in a blush topper. I know that some people say that you use a blush topper to make your liquids last longer, but why not just use one powder blush instead? It just feels kind of silly to buy a dedicated product as a blush topper, knowing that it doesn't really work on any other part of the face. It's just, yeah, it's just not for me. Ciele launched 2 new shades of their Blush and Protect SPF 50. These are $34 and you can get them on the Ciele website or Sephora. They say they're a hydrating liquid blush that gives your cheeks the perfect flush of color. They're lightweight and have a buildable burst of color and a natural finish. They're ultra blendable, creamy, and melt into the skin. They have non-nano, mineral-based, broad-spectrum SPF 50+, acne-safe, made without pore cloggers, and they have strong antioxidant properties that lower the risk of cellular damage in the skin. My favorite out of the 2 new shades is June, which is a warm burgundy. At first, I thought this was going to be way too dark and just a wrong shade for me, but it actually is really beautiful. It truly does look like you're sun-kissed or a little bit sunburnt. It's almost like a deep rosy brown, so I find it really nice as a bronzer all over the skin. It actually probably would have gone really well with my shirt today. I like this formula because it's really blendable, but then it sets down and it has a natural finish. These do fade on me a little bit, but it's not too bad. And I do like the extra sun protection, especially on my cheeks, because that's where I get the most hyperpigmentation. So June is a shade that I think a lot of people are gonna like, but they also launched the shade January, which is a cool pink. I just am kind of over like very, very light, milky, cool pink blushes. I find that they just don't look very skin-like, even on my cool skin. Something about this didn't work for me. I think maybe it's a little bit too light for me, or the pigment just kind of blended away. It wasn't my favorite. I really like June and their shade Bahati. That's actually my favorite. favorite, but I have seen people with slightly deeper skin than I have talk about how much they love January, so just a personal preference there. But as far as liquid blushes go, I like them a lot. A product I did not think I was gonna like is the Persona Eye Paint Liquid Eyeshadows. These are $22 and they come in 3 shades. The website says Eye Paint is a multi-dimensional liquid eyeshadow with a silky smooth glide, quick dry formula that melts seamlessly onto the eyes for an ethereal shine that lasts all day and night. They have buildable shine without fallout or flaking, flexible formula that melts into the lids without creasing, blends seamlessly with fingers or a brush, and they're quick dry and long lasting. I actually agree with all of that. I normally don't like metallic liquid eyeshadows because I have slightly hooded eyes, and I find that the formula really just gathers and kind of creases and bunches and slides around my outer crease. Metallic liquid eyeshadows always inevitably end up like flaking or creasing on me or fading really badly. But surprisingly, these didn't, and they are completely budge proof. You get a ton of blend time. Like, I could build these up in layers, no problem. I never had any issues with them drying down too fast. They really are blendable and very workable, but then they set and they do not budge. And I am telling you, they do not budge until you take them off. But the thing is, for me, like, any metallic liquid eyeshadow is just simply not gonna compare to the finish and the performance of a powder eyeshadow for me. Powder eyeshadows are just so much more smooth. Even though this is probably one of the best metallic eyeshadow formulas I've ever tried, it still just doesn't beat a powder eyeshadow for me. And I got these in the mail yesterday, so I only had time to do a wear test for the shade Belle, but I was pretty blown away by how long it lasted. It didn't look like it creased at all. It just faded a little bit, which was really impressive. I did have time to do quick eye swatches of Pony and Oro. This is Pony, and this is the one I was a little afraid of. Usually these kind of like sheer lilacs end up being really patchy on me, and that's exactly the experience that I had with the shade Pony. It is buildable, it's just that the pigment is a little uneven. That's typically why I like to avoid metallic eyeshadows in a liquid formula in the first place. I didn't try it with a primer, so it might be different if you use a primer, but honestly, these types of shadows are just ones I avoid in general, so I didn't really have the time to make it work. But the shade Oro, on the other hand, was very similar to Belle in that it has totally smooth, even pigment. There's more of a base to it versus Pony had a sheer base. So I would recommend Oro and Belle. I thought those were the ones that performed really well. And again, these don't crease. They're great. And I really, really, really hope that they make these in a matte formula because could you imagine this formula as a matte? Oh, it would be so good. And the last new launch is a product I'll be featuring in my K-Beauty deep dive. This is the Lilybyred Tangle Jelly Balm, and I got the shades Apricot, Lychee, and Taro. These are just $7.88 on YesStyle. And the website says, get juicy and kissable lips with this glossy balm coming in 8 vivid colors with a sheer finish. Infused with hydrolyzed collagen and plant oils derived from fruit seeds, the lip balm deeply hydrates and nourishes lip. The slanted applicator ensures controlled and mess-free application. I kind of like the packaging. I think the design is really interesting and cute, but it is a very stiff tube to squeeze, so then sometimes you can squeeze out a little bit too much, but it's not that bad. But I really like the formula. These actually feel like a liquid version of the Nature Republic Honey Melting Balms, which are my favorite lip formula of all time. These are just like a more liquidy version of that. So they're still thick and cushiony, and they have this like high shine finish, but they're not sticky. There is a little bit of a slip to them. The only thing I don't like about them is the smell. They have a very intense, very sweet, very artificial peach scent. A lot of K-beauty brands have like great fruit smells that I really like. Some can smell more natural, some smell more chemically. This one unfortunately smells quite strong and quite artificial, but the formula is beautiful. Super hydrating, feels cushiony and gorgeous, comes in a ton of beautiful colors. So I think pretty impressive launch. Every single product was sent to me in PR except for 3 that I purchased. So thank you to the brands who send me PR, knowing that I am very honest, oftentimes brutally so. I have gotten kicked off PR lists in the past for being negative when I speak about products. So it really means a lot to me when there are brands that continue to send me PR, even though they know that if a product doesn't work for me, I'm gonna be really honest about it. I hope that in a sea of influencers who give everything a positive review, I can be a little bit of a refreshing change of pace. And I also was diagnosed a couple weeks ago with autism spectrum disorder, and it honestly put a lot of things in perspective for me about why I'm so particular and so picky about every little thing, especially things that go on my face or in my body. And it also explains a lot why I like doing my deep dives. If you want to help my channel without purchasing something and using an affiliate link, you can always subscribe, leave a comment, and click the like button. It really does help. I'll leave a recent new makeup video on the screen. There were a lot of new launches lately, so there's a lot to get through. And wherever you are, I hope you're having a great day. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.